Our next guest brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club. Counting down to opening day, May 10th. We're inside of 10 days here. And the club reminds organizers of groups of 12 or more, it's time to lock in those times for the 2024 season. The prime times are filling up fast, so you're going to want to reserve that spot. And just for doing so, you, the organizer, plays for free. Whistler Golf Club takes care of the rest. Tell us about your group, whistlergolf.com/groups. And, of course, check out the spring preparations. The Bears, the course wintered famously. I'm wearing my Whistler Golf quarter zip. Check the social out at Whistler Golf.
My son had a POW day the other day at the top, and then we're talking like days away from Whistler Golf Club.
Amazing. Here he is, former Vancouver Canuck TSN hockey analyst Frank Corrado, who was spending some time with our boy Farhan Lalji.
Yeah.
That was a pleasant surprise last night. Farhan coming up to the boardroom at TSN Studio 9 to watch the end of the Canucks game after doing the CFL draft. So very talented guy, that Farhan Lalji. I think he actually got back for his son's track meet today.
Really? Yeah, he travels well.
Did he ever interview you as a Canuck?
Yes, I have a Farhan story.
Please bring it.
Safe for work? Do tell.
Yeah. I actually had a little beef with Farhan early on in my TSN, Canucks brilliant. Tenure, but I don't even know if he knows this. So, when I first got called up to play my first NHL game, long story short, there was a Russian player in Sudbury. His name was Andrei Kuchin, and he didn't use a cell phone or anything like that. So his agent, his North American agent, used to communicate to him through me because I lived 3 doors down from the kid, right? So this guy, he was based in Chicago. And so all year, I'd help, facilitate all this stuff. And I was playing for the Wolves. So, as a little thank you, he takes me out for dinner. And, then he texts me afterwards. He goes, okay, I'll see you at the game. I'm going to come, I'm going to watch the game, whatever. I go, actually, I just got called up to Vancouver. So, I won't see you tomorrow. And he went out and he tweeted something like, good things happen to good people. Congrats to at Frank Corrado 22, getting called up to the Vancouver Canucks. And I guess Farhan saw that that's an agent. That's a hockey agent. And tweeted, oh, this is from Frank Corrado's agent. I guess he's getting called up. And I had to throw a tweet out there right away. I'm like, this is not my agent. My agent is Joe Resnick. Because you can understand my situation. I have an agent. He's like, what is going on? You have a double agent? What is this? So anyways, we cleared the air, but it was a little moment of trepidation before my first NHL recall. And Farhan thought he was getting the scoop, but he jammed me up a little bit. But it's all good now. We're over
it. Did Mr. Resnick?
I was going to say, was Resnick shook?
He called me. He was like, what is going on? Is there something I need to know?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, I had to explain that situation, which was fun. Yeah.
What did you make of Game 5, Frank?
Man, like other games in this series, it could have gone either way. The goaltending is still a story for a number of reasons, whether it's the injuries or the third string goalie playing well, Saros making some massive saves. It's a tight series, and what seems like it might be, low event at times, every once in a while there's a grade A and you're like, whoa, that kind of, that came out of nowhere and it happened quick. But it's the margins for error right now in this series are very slim, and you can lose a game and not necessarily deserve to lose that game. And that's what makes this series so difficult right now. And, the one thing that maybe you want to look from the Canucks is where's the game breakers? Where's that? Because that's what's really got to put you over the edge here in a series like this. You have them, you've seen it at times this year. There's some elite skill. There's more elite skill on Vancouver than there is on Nashville. But the game is kind of in this murky, swampy middle right now where it just seems like it's really hard to kind of break through and get the upper hand for a long time.
Frank, we have a story right there. Pettersson on the 2-on-1 could extend the lead. It is on a tee for Elias Pettersson to erase all the bad karma, all the bad press that he's been getting, and it just catches the left shoulder of Saros. It was right there for him. I mean, honestly, the series is won if that goal goes in.
And you know what? I think for Pettersson, watching him last night, it's definitely not for a lack of effort. We've seen that throughout the series. It's almost like he's trying to do too much. But even early in that game, he goes to throw a big hit on Carrier, Like he takes the worst of it, but he's involved. He's engaged physically. Like he wants to do it. We're starting to see more signs of maybe he's going to be able to do it. But with the Miller line having been so consistent and basically been like the one constant that you can count on throughout this series, outside of, like Quinn Hughes has been like big moments have followed Quinn Hughes in this series, but like that Miller line's been really good. But you do need a little bit more, and I know like you can just tell he wants to do a little bit more. It looks like it's coming, and maybe it comes at the right time. Like maybe it happens on the road, but I always found with whether it was myself or other guys, whether you're in a little bit of a rut or a tough spot, it can be a little bit of one step forward, two steps back. Like it doesn't just happen right away. And you can see he's trying to work through something. But I don't know. I felt like he was engaged in the games, especially physically last night.
Does he look injured to you? And specifically, does it look like a hand or wrist injury based on the way he is shooting the
Hughes or Pettersson?
Pettersson?
I see. I always wonder about that with him, because like when a player is that good, that refined in their skill set, and then they can't really put it together, you have to start to wonder, okay, is there something, nagging this guy? I don't know, like if I feel like it's the wrist, because I watched one of the hits last night and I'm like, okay, why are you going down so easy there? Like you had the upper hand. It felt like, I don't know. I don't know why I felt like it wasn't necessarily the wrist. And I feel like that's the one we always come back to. But, maybe at times it has been a groin. I don't know. It's hard to tell, because even the way he skates, he's a good skater, but it's not exactly the prettiest stride you've ever seen.
I thought he
right?
looked faster last night, though. Ironically, I
Yeah.
thought last night I noticed him break away on that 2-on-1 and separate a little bit.
Yeah, which is good. Like that, and that's the thing. Like when he kind of slows down to a crawl, he's regular, right? Like, and for me, it's not necessarily the high end speed; it's the shiftiness, like the evasiveness. That's where you see it. It's like that quick, fast twitch, explosive movement. And when he doesn't have that, he's kind of just another guy. But when he has that, he's able to create some separation. So that's one of the things that I'd kind of be looking for in the next game, and hopefully not 2 games.
And Lindholm's wrist is still bandaged up, and he's playing great.
Hey, they targeted, in Rick Tocchet's words, took runs at Quinn Hughes. I think it was a little gentler, the treatment last night. But how do you think he's going to hold up here now that we're going back to Nashville and playing at least 6?
I give him a lot of credit, man, and he's not wrong, because they have been taking runs at him. But like, is that a secret? Is that a surprise? The guy's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. He's probably going to win the Norris. You don't think that was one of the first things that was said in every pre-scout meeting that they had leading up to this series? Like, hit Hughes every single chance you have, and like the way he's been able to bounce back. And I go back 2 games ago, like the plays that he made late in that game, under pressure at the offensive blue line, like incredible stuff to be able to do that, and have that kind of poise under pressure, especially with the fact that, every time you've had the puck, essentially, someone's been coming to finish you, and you could start to hear the footsteps. I know I did when I played. I'm obviously not the player that Quinn Hughes was, but the footsteps they start to get a little louder. And for him, it's almost like he hears the footsteps and he's like, I'm going to play through it. Like, I think he's a very resilient guy. And quite honestly, he probably has had to be for a long time. Like, he probably has never been the biggest guy. Like, he's never been the strongest guy. He's always had to push through this. It's not the first time that a team has said, let's finish our hits on Quinn Hughes every chance we have, because that's going to be the game plan on him forever. And it is for every top defenseman. But, even like anytime he gets the puck at the blue line, he still looks like he's got that shake and bake and he's dancing. And it's like, he's not dumbing it down for the sake of dumbing it down. He's still playing his game. And I think, what really sticks out to me is, as much as he's always, he has that flash, he does what the game requires. And I think that really goes a long way for his game and facilitating the rest of the team's game.
It's maybe too much to ask both special teams to be going like gangbusters at the same time, but the PK, they're making it look easy at times, and they finally do succumb and let in a goal. But the power play looks like they've never met each other in their entire lives.
But it's so strange. It's so like they just had power play goals. Like JT Miller just had one, and it seemed like it was such an easy recipe too, where you didn't have to overcook the puck. You know, like it was just, hey, let's roll it up on the half wall. Let's skate downhill. Let's take a shot. If it doesn't work, it gets blocked. Let's do it again because maybe we're going to create a rebound. Maybe we're going to create a little opportunity at the net. Like Brock Besser's done a really good job all year, not just in the playoffs, but like being in that net front area, kind of sneaking in behind coverage, establishing body positioning. It's like, you know, those little plays, those need to happen off shots and puck retrievals where you get people moving. Like you can't just, it's hard to just direct a puck down there and say, now we're going to make small little plays around the net. Like you need to open up some kind of coverage in that situation. But I don't know. I think when it comes to the power play, it comes down to like, let's get back to the basics, but they've been back to the basics so many times. Like,
but it's like they fall in love with one
thing.
They
have to get basicer.
How can it be more basic than what they did in Nashville, where it was like JT Miller shot blocked?
They fall in love with one thing, and then they just do that.
Right.
And there's never middle ground. Like it's just Elias Pettersson. Okay, it's just JT Miller shooting now. Yeah. It's just slap passing now. It's just Bo Horvat and the bumper. Like it's always just one thing. Like how about, you know, you do a little bit of everything here. And
I'll give you a good example. Like, okay, so for me this year, covering Montreal a lot, I think a lot of people made a lot of Cole Caulfield not scoring. Right. And Marty St. Louis talked about it. He said, and the power play was struggling as well. So you got the daily double there. And basically Marty said, well, listen, the power play doesn't revolve around Cole Caulfield. The power play revolves around all five players and having different looks. Now, Montreal's power play was not good. Cole Caulfield, you know, he didn't have the season that maybe people expected. It was respectable at the end of it all. But I think the messaging there from a coach who played the game is very correct. That the power play can't just have one look. It can't just revolve around one guy. It has to have a few different things. Like I would love to see the bumper. Like I would love to see that bumper one-timer a little bit more. I would love to see, you know, things open up through the seam. I like the Quinn Hughes one-timer. Like I want to see all these different elements, but if you're going to get hamstrung to one thing, you know, teams are going to sniff it out. I think, you know, Nashville does a really good job of blocking shots to begin with. And if they kind of know that there's going to be, you know, one set play or, you know, where everything's going to get worked off, they're coming straight out. Like they will come straight out onto the half walls and make themselves look big. But I think when that happens, that's when you open yourself up to plays low underneath that. But it does start with a shot mentality first.
I might have asked you this last week, but 21, 18, 12, 20, 20. Shot totals for the Vancouver Canucks through 5 games by game. 91 through 5, averaging 18 shots per game. Can they win this series with so few shots on goal?
They can, because they've gotten this far, you know, and they're essentially on the brink of it. It's just Nashville's a weird team. Like the way they kind of suppress, you know, the quantity of chances is quite interesting. But I would say that just because the quantity of chances and shots hasn't been there, like there has been quality. Like, you know, it's funny watching the game last night, Farhan walks into the room and he goes, okay, what's the story? And I'm like, okay, well, Saros has made some big saves. And he goes, well, how can that be the case? There's only 12 shots for the Canucks at this point. I'm like, well, I'm telling you, man, he's made some key saves. And then shortly afterwards, Zadorov scores. And you know, that's one that Saros is kind of swimming in his own net. But, you know, I think if you're still generating the quality, if you're still generating the slot shots, if it's still, you know, goal mouth situations where you're jamming away at pucks, you don't need to waste them. Like you don't need to waste them on Saros on the outside. Like I don't think, you know, with a goalie like that, you know, you don't need to throw junk at the net and say, let's just go volume, because I don't know how many times have we seen really good goalies make 40 saves in a game. And it's like, okay, you made 40 saves. How many of those were of, you know, really good quality? So I do think they can do it. Of course, they would probably like to get a little more as far as quantity to the net, but as long as the quality is still there, I'm not necessarily concerned.
Yeah, they got scoring chances. They got more than enough scoring chances to win that hockey game and to score 2, 3, maybe even 4 goals. And it's just is that in their head at all? Do you think that, you know, that they can't score enough goals right now? I mean, it doesn't seem like it, but
It has to be. I think when you're in a series, you think of, okay, what do we need to do now in order to win this series? And like scoring goals, obviously scoring goals, but like it hasn't come easy to them. And I think that's where, like, the star player kind of, the star power game breaker type player really comes into play, and that's Elias Pettersson. And the power play obviously is a big part of that. But I don't know, like I think the goalie has a big part in that, because you'll take a look at the pre-scout before, you take a look at, there's some video clips playing in the dressing room, and you see all the saves or all the goals this guy's making, and you're like, man, it's tough to beat that guy. And I think it's become one of those things now where offense is not coming easy for this team. It's not coming easy for other teams around the league. Like, it's not just the Vancouver Canucks that are going through this. And like, this is one of the hurdles that happens in the playoffs. And they gotta find a way, because when they were at their best, as much as they're a very good defensive team, when they were at their best this year, the goals came a little easier, and you hope you didn't waste them all in the early portion of the season.
I want to challenge both of you on this notion of quality chances, or enough scoring chances, and it's the quality over the quantity. Guys, Saros has an .879 save percentage in this series. The Vancouver Canucks have 2 power play goals. They were both in the same game. They have 4 even strength goals in the last 4 games, 2 of them by Nikita Zadorov. If they're putting 10 more shots per night on goal, or 12, something that's closer to 28-30, which is roughly what you expect in an NHL game. You guys telling me one more ain't going in? And this series isn't over now, or they're in overtime last night?
I'd like your chances. Like, I'd like your chances of one more going in for sure. But it's easier said than done to just fire 10 up when it's gone the way it has.
No,
it's not just a one game thing. That's we've seen how hard it is for them to pepper the net. It's just it's not easy. Whether it's the game where Nashville blocks 35 shots, or there's going to be games where Nashville carries the play offensively. It's harder. Like, everyone's accounted for. Like, every matchup is pretty dialed in, and the goaltender matchup is no different. But those numbers probably don't tell the whole story with Saros. Like, those are very, very pedestrian numbers for a good goalie who had struggled this year, but really turned his game around towards the end.
And the thing I'd be worried about, Frank, is he was really pedestrian through 4 games. Like, he was good last night. You might be now running into a good, hot UC Saros, which would be pretty scary at the very least in Game 6, back on home ice, but potentially in a winner-take-all Game 7 as well. Let's go to the crease on the other end. What have you made of young Silovs, and who would you start in Game 5?
I'd be going right back with the kid. I thought he was really good. Like, you talk about stories in that game last night. Saros was a story, but I think the bigger story was Silovs and how well he played, especially in the early parts of that game. Like, Nashville was making a lot of plays from below the goal line up to the slot area. And those are tough for defensemen, I know firsthand, but they're tough for goalies too, because now you're constantly having to move your head, like, behind you to in front of you. You're checking, certain sight lines. And I thought he handled that all really, really well. For a young goalie, it seems like the moment is not too big for him, regardless of what you think of that second goal. Like, there is some traffic in front of him. And I don't know. I like the way the team feels when he's in the net. Not to say that it's not the same when Casey DeSmith is in the net, and of course Thatcher Demko's in a different ballpark. But I think this guy, like, we've seen it at the men's worlds when Latvia won bronze. Like, he's kind of he likes the bigger moment, and his game doesn't make you feel like you're missing something when he's in there. I liked his game.
Hey, Frank, did you hear him after Game 4 when he was asked about whether he was nervous playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs? And he said no, it was. He said he wasn't that nervous. He's had experience before, back home in the domestic league.
The domestic league, the Latvian domestic league. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he said it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
You know why?
The domestic league before the World Championships.
You know why he said that, right? Because there's a good chance in that league, if you don't play well, you're probably not getting paid.
Oh, yeah.
That's when the stakes are really high. That's when the stakes are really high. The Latvian domestic league. We got to get eyes on this thing. I saw it. Like, I was in Riga, so I got to see a little bit of it. That's awesome.
So you were in Riga. You're the one. Okay.
Penalties have not been a huge, like, it's not like the Canucks are handing 7 power plays to the Preds on a nightly basis. It's just sometimes the timing of these power plays is just seemingly gutted the Canucks, and I don't know that I loved any of the penalties taken. Is that something that you need to take head on, or if you're giving up 4 power plays, that's just kind of standard and not worthy of addressing if you're worth talking?
4 power plays in the playoffs feels like it's on the higher end based
does.
on what we see.
Yeah.
What we see in the other games, it's like, last night there's a game where there's like 1 power play for one team, 3 for the other. Like 4 is high, but I don't know. Vancouver is playing a very hard, rugged style of game. Like and you know what? I give them a lot of credit because they identified something with their decor that they wanted to do. They wanted the big tree stump defenseman who can move fairly well and can move the puck fairly well. And they've been like really mean, really punishing. And if everyone's going to play that style, you're going to be susceptible to a little more of the penalties. I saw what Zadorov said after the game about, the officiating. And it's like, I don't think that's exclusive to this series. Like, I just think there's so much urgency with the way all these teams are playing right now. And, guys are towing the line, and refs are going to miss things. Refs are going to call things. Like, there's been a ton of missed calls in other series as well. So for sure it's going to be a point of focus to make sure you are disciplined and not give Nashville opportunities on the power play. But it's not just exclusive to here. What interests me about the Nashville power play, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, Roman Yosi must be the only defenseman in the NHL who accepts the drop pass on the breakout instead of initiating the drop pass, which is wild. He's got to be the only one who someone else drops it to Yosi, and then he's the one who carries it in, and of course he carries it right to the net. He ends up scoring that goal. But that was one of my big takeaways. Like, it has a different look because it's a defenseman, but he's pretty good at it.
I don't mind it. I mean, if Hughes was in that role, Hughes has got such good handle of the puck. Him weaving into the offensive zone, to me, that's not a bad idea. I mean, who's better at holding onto the puck? I mean,
yeah, Hughes could do it. He's definitely capable. But yeah, it's an interesting look they have.
Indeed. Ilya Mikheyev, your old Leaf teammate.
I missed him by a couple years, but I saw him a lot. He was
there.
No, I saw him a lot though. Yeah,
he misses his old self too.
Is he ever going to score?
Kidding.
Is he?
That's a great question.
Because he was better last night, Frank. He was active. He was in the mix.
Yeah. Not the first time we said that either. There was games in the final 10 where he was very active. Still nothing.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing that frustrated everyone in Toronto. It's like this guy, because of his speed, because of his willingness to kind of drive the net and take pucks wide and bring it right across the middle of the ice. Like, he's very willing to do that, but man, he cannot finish. You know what would benefit him? If he could play the game 5 to 10% slower, I think he would have a better chance of finishing. Like, he's so fast. It's such a frantic pace, everything he wants to do. And that's what makes him a good player. But ultimately, when it comes down to like making plays and finishing, it's just, there's a little bit of like a slowdown that needs to happen. And I don't see it with him. And that's probably because he knows, like, you got paid. Your role is to be very fast. And, like, if he's not doing that, does he feel like he's doing his job? But this is like, I watched Mikheyev here in Toronto because I was doing the games on radio and covering the team very closely. Breakaway after breakaway, right into the pad, right along the ice into the pad, like miss the net completely. Like, this is not something new. Like, I think if you were expecting him to score a lot, you were going to be let down. But, you kind of hope that there was a little more than what he's given you now, especially considering the chances he's getting. Like you guys mentioned, like there are some better chances, some better opportunities, but that's always the case with him. Like,
you want to slow it down to like Kuznetsov on a penalty shot slow? Like, is that what you're talking about? That slow?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's that's ridiculous. Remote control. Controller slowed down. Yeah, I know. It worked. It works a lot. And that's the frustrating thing, because if it didn't work and he would just rifle it into someone's pads, he would look like a goof. But it works a lot, so good for him.
I liked somebody tweeted last night, love the speed and intensity of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
That's right.
Frank, you're the best. Thank you for this. We'll catch up next week.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.